This is a follow-up to the previous video where I talked about how to prevent wrist and forearm injury during sword practice by following through with the cut instead of stopping it in front of you. And a few people have expressed concern that you leave yourself open when doing that, as opposed to keeping the blade in front of you, which is understandable. And this is what I used to say as well before I joined Blood and Iron. It seemed to make more sense to actually always keep it out in front of you. But since then, I've changed my mind, because there's one severe problem that I see with this, namely just simple lack of power. So let's say this represents my target, and I want to cut in such a way that the blade is staying in front of me. So I would cut through, and I aim to keep it about here. That's not a lot of follow through. And also very importantly, it's not a lot of rotation. So if you're trying to do a cut like this with the blade still in front of you, that means that your muscles are going to start working against the direction of the cut sooner, because you want to make sure you don't over travel. Whereas if you travel through all the way, then you get this nice even slice all the way through, and at no point will your muscles start pulling against the direction in which you want the blade to travel. So it's just a way of saying there's more power in following through all the way, of course. And opening yourself up during this is a valid concern, but I don't think it's as much of a problem. Personally, I'm not particularly fast, but even so, it doesn't take me that long to return to a guard after a cut. At Blood and Iron, the local HEMA club where I practice, the instructors teach it this way, and it seems to work for them. They have been very successful in tournaments on the West Coast and North America. They've brought home plenty of gold and silver medals, and that's really the important thing. If you can pull it off against practitioners from other schools, then it can't be too bad. And ultimately, it's all interpretation. We can't talk directly to the ancient masters, and a lot of the material is ambivalent, so you do have to interpret it. You do have to experiment with it and see what works, and if you can pull it off, it's good. So in this case, the main concern that I see is that if you don't follow through much, then you're probably not going to achieve that much. I mean, this is what I first didn't realize. Some of you may remember in the one video where I tested the silicone rubber synthetic flesh. It didn't work very well at all. I had just a simple shirt over it, and I couldn't cut deeply into it. And I now realize that it's exactly because of that kind of issue. I was aiming at, stopping the blade right here, and it just wasn't enough. It just didn't cut very deeply into it. And thick clothing can be, quite remarkably resistant to cuts if they don't have enough rotation and power in them. And here's another potential issue. If the opponent sidesteps or even shifts their body just slightly, you may not do much to them. So if I aim so that the blade would end up here and the opponent shifts just a little bit to the side, suddenly it only taps them as opposed to the complete follow through, which would still get them, even if they sidestep. Keep in mind, this is just one way to do it. There may be other valid approaches. It's just, these are the arguments that I personally found convincing. And it's always good to discuss these things, because as said, we can't know for sure exactly how they did it. And, how they did it. What does that even mean? There was most likely some variation. Well, there were different schools and different opinions on how you should fence. So even back in the day, different instructors had different ideas and disagreed. So there you go. Take it for what it's worth. Thanks for watching.